Hey everybody, welcome to Stories with Sapphire Live. I'm Sapphire Sandalo. This is the live stream that I do every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, where I read your stories and emails and chat with you in the chat. All right, so let's get into it. I've got some stories already pulled up. Um, Usually I don't read these ahead of time, but I sort of skimmed a couple and picked some that I thought might be cool. Just a reminder, if you want to submit an email or a story, you can send it to, it's right here, storieswithsapphire@gmail.com. I recommend putting a really catchy title in the subject line. I receive lots of emails, and if your subject line is, here's my story, then I might skip right over it. But all the ones we're reading today have a pretty interesting subject line. This one is The Tenant. All right, here we go. Sapphire, I love your stories and am a very enthusiastic subscriber. This story I shall share is not a paranormal one, but it is indeed frightening. I'm currently 29, and I shall never forget my experiences. My grandmother, narcissistic and ignorant, rents the rooms in her house for tenants to live in. I stay with her over the weekends and has been an ongoing thing till I turned 25 and no longer had any contact with her. One particular tenant, who was named Mario, seemed quiet. However, I began to notice some things that were off. At age 12, I began to notice, when I'm at the kitchen alone eating, some red little light peeking at the corner of the window that had thin, short curtains that barely covered it. The moment I turned to look, it quickly ducked away. At first, I just ignored it, but at age 13, I found out what that was. It was a camera. Now, the doors that led to the backyard were glass sliding doors with Venetian blinds that opened sideways. You can easily peek through it into the living room. The only TV available for me to watch my Naruto series was in the living room at night. I began to notice the little red light again, poking out at the very corner, and duck away when I turned my head. I trusted my peripheral vision. As soon as the little red light poked out again, I shot up to my feet and raced to open the door. I slammed it open and heard the sound of footsteps. I chased after it at the back. There was another door that led out to the backyard, which was close to the kitchen, but also close to Mario's door. I heard the metal screen door shut loudly and Mario's door close. I knew it was him. If that was not evidence that guy was doing shady stuff, every time I would go use the door by the kitchen to throw out the trash, I would see Mario's door open slightly. I told my grandma about this, and she quickly brushed off as my imagination or I'm hallucinating things. I'll refrain from the disgusting, lewd acts in the backyard to spare the listeners. Anyway, to keep it short, this guy moved out after a while, but tried to move back in when I was 22 because he had no other place to stay. Cops showed up at the house trying to convince us after some months Cops showed up at the house trying to convince after some months, asking my grandmother for information on him because he was in some sort of trouble. Another tenant had discovered the guy trying to peek into my grandmother's room too. It was not until later I heard from a third party that Mario records young girls at the creek and watches the video too. Anyway, after the cops have apprehended him, I didn't know what happened. I just hope he stays in jail. Good. That was creepy. This is from Rave Santos. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, sometimes the most disturbing stories are the ones that actually aren't paranormal at all. Oh man, I hope. It sounds like he was taken to jail. Yeah, and I hope no one has any run-ins with him ever again. Loyman's Corner, thank you for subscribing. Hello, and welcome to the stream. Hi, Weekly Creep and Milky Rolls. How are you all doing today? All right. Let me know what you thought of that story in the comments. All right, we got another one here. This is from... Actually, wait, no. I'll say who it's from after in case they don't want their name. All right, here we go. Hi, Sapphire. I really love listening to you and your guests talk about their paranormal experiences. I send my condolences for your Zisu. Oh, thank you. I bet he was one of the best companions ever. I wouldn't know since I'm not allowed to have a dog. Anyways, I would like to talk about the somewhat harmless being that surrounds me. I started to notice them since I was 10. That was when my family of 7, including me, first moved into this house. This house is 19 years old, and I don't know the history of it, unfortunately. The first time I noticed one of them was when I just got a chair for my off-white 3-tiered desk. The back was very thin, so I didn't lean on it. After finding my mom on something very unreasonable, I went to my room and decided to color as a 10-year-old does. But after I got all my supplies out and decided to sit on my chair, I heard a very feminine voice say, "I love you." Then they kissed me and pulled my shoulders behind, breaking the chair. I laid on my back, crying, saying the 3 words over and over again. I now sense them with a very old black plain night dress, and they follow me everywhere. Very much harmless, but they say, "I love you," often. I'm not bothered by it. In fact, I sometimes say, "I love you" back. They seem happy when I do that. I told my mom about this experience after apologizing, and she told me that she also believes in spirits. Like clockwork, my dad flipped the corner and said, "No, you guys are just schizophrenic or something." I realized the second spirit when I was randomly folding my laundry. As I was listening to your podcast, I felt something really tall, so tall that they had to bend down from the 1-story ceiling. So that means they're over 15 feet tall. And they just stood there for hours throughout the night. The next morning, as my alarm rang and my eyes opened, startling at the fact that they were there, facing me, in my doorway, meaning that they were smaller than before. I slowly started getting ready for school, ignoring them. After I got home from school, they were still there. I now see them with a murky brown fedora and hunched over, but it gains height depending on where he is. I don't see him move, but he does. And he feels kind of calming, which can be somewhat eerie. I hope you enjoy my paranormal experiences as I enjoy yours. God not, in parentheses, Norwegian. I guess that's the Norwegian way of saying goodbye. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindley, for sharing that. Yeah, sometimes, to me, that's one of the eeriest things is the presence of something that isn't necessarily good or bad. It's just there. It's just neutral. And I think what makes it creepier is that its motivation isn't clear. Like I was recently doing some research for the next season of my podcast, and I was doing research on what makes something creepy. It's a very different sensation from straight up fear, right? When you are afraid of something, it's very clear and distinct. You have a set of bodily reactions and you need to leave. You think that you're in danger, there's a threat. When something is creepy and you're just unsettled or disturbed, it sits in this kind of limbo because you think something might be a threat, but it may not be. And so your brain is trying to figure it out. And it's in that confusion that makes it's so like unsettling because you're like, wow, I just need an answer, you know? Anyways, I just thought I'd share that. All right, cool. Thank you, Lindley. Let me mark this as red. Cool. All right, here we go. Next one is from... Oh, wait. We got a chat. Sorry. If you see me, like, touching my nose, it's because my nose ring always pokes out, and it looks like a booger, so I'm always making sure it's not there. Anyways. Shumai Sunbun. Hi, Ate Sapphire. I'm a long-time listener since Something Scary. Don't work too hard. Manigong bagong taon sa Leo. Is that Tagalog? Because I don't speak Tagalog. However, I am trying to learn Cebuano. My 2020 goal is to become fluent. Apparently, it's possible to become fluent in a year. So, any Cebuano listeners in the chat, say stuff. I wanna. I need to practice. I don't know how to say practice. Uh, um, mo Musuti ko sa Cebuano. I will speak Cebuano. Terrible, embarrassing. Um, LMAO, I thought I was tripping with the Ember effects there for a second. Yeah, I got my little campfire going. The Classic Kid, 2016. Hey, Sapphire, I've been wanting to tell you about a nightmare that I've had a while ago, and it's been bothering me for a long time, but I don't really know if I should. It's about three witches. Yeah, send me an email. I want to know what's going on. It could just, I'm hoping that it's just a dream and not something potentially harmful. All right, we got, here's a short one. Hello, Sapphire. I want to share this short story. I live in Oman. Oman? I don't actually know what that is. Sorry. I live in Oman since ever I was a baby. I was 15 when I went to visit my family in India, Bangalore. That night, my uncle was going to attend his party at his office, so he wanted to take me too. We went to the party and had fun. It was almost 2 a.m., and our house was pretty far from the office, so we decided to take a shortcut from the tunnel. We entered the tunnel. Not too long after, the lights in the tunnel started flickering, and our car stopped. Me and my uncle waited for a while to get the car started. There was silence for a while. And suddenly, on my passenger window, someone started banging suddenly. We both got really scared, and the car started finally, and we left as soon as possible. We didn't talk about it. The next day, we saw those handprints on the same car window. We tried to wipe it off, but it just wouldn't come off. We took it to the garage, and the garage employees told us the handprints were from inside the car. Whoa, what? So when you say handprint, do you mean like an indentation in the car from the inside? Because that's creepy as hell. Yeah. You know what I thought this story was gonna be. Are you all familiar with Gravity Hills? There's one in so many different cities, but the legend I'm familiar with is that when you go to one of these Gravity Hills, you roll backward, and then you're supposed to all of a sudden start going the other way uphill. And then if you put baby powder all along the trunk and then you go check afterward, you should see tiny little hands that pushed your car. My friends in high school swear that it actually worked for them when they did it. I wish I was there, but yeah, I don't know what that reminded me of that. But yeah, that was a cool story. Thank you. Oopsies. Let's go like that. Apply. They might have been smudge prints. Yeah, maybe. Okay, this one is called Sweet Death. Hello, Sapphire. I just wanted to let you know that if you're choosing this story, please don't mention my email or my name when giving credits. You can just say submitted anonymously. All right, good to know. Okay. Also, I just want a heads up. I read these straight from your emails, so sometimes I'll stumble because I haven't like really read them through, or there's errors. So, just so you know. My name is Angel. I'm 15 years old, and I used to live in Texas and moved back to Colorado for multiple reasons. One of the reasons, however, is what I'm about to tell you. One day in Texas, when I was 9, I was watching TV with my 7-year-old sister, Greta, and my grandma. Grandma was the sweetest and kindest person you'd ever meet. Despite all her positivity, don't let her fool you. She actually suffers from depression ever since my grandpa died. And I was sad as well. I never knew how Grandpa died, though. While we were watching TV, we heard a knock on our back door. Grandma, do we open it? Grandma wasn't sure if we should open because she was suspicious of why someone would just show up at our back door. Greta got a little worried when Grandma hesitated. Then they knocked louder. Who's there? I put my hand on Greta's mouth. Grandma just looked at us with her finger at her lips, telling her to shh, and looked back at the door. They suddenly started banging on the door louder, causing Greta to quietly cry and whimper. Becky, I know you're in there, the person who was knocking on our door said with a deep voice. Grandma covered her mouth with her hand as me and Greta realized that the person was calling our grandma's name. Becky, said the deep voice even louder. Don't make me say your name twice. Grandma then stood up from her chair, slowly walking to the door, and opened it. There was nothing. Nothing but silence. Grandma tried closing the door, but it felt like someone was pushing it back. Greta ran to Grandma and tried helping her, and I did the same. It won't budge, I yelled. We finally successfully closed the door. Grandma, who was that? Asked Greta. Was that Grandpa? I asked. Grandma shook her head, sighed, and said, if you really want to know, long ago before you both were born, I was about 22 years old and your grandpa was 25. Your grandpa was obsessed with scary and creepy stuff such as summoning demons, trying creepy board games, and more. He was always brave to do such things. Then one day, one of his demon summonings worked. Its face was very abnormal. Its eyes and lips were swapped where they were. Its teeth were yellow, but also looked like they were dipped in blood. It had weird square hands and 5 sharp triangles for fingers on each hand. It had 4 strands of hair, representing pain, jealousy, anger, and lastly, death. Your grandpa was completely normal about it. When he explained to me what it looked like, I did not believe him. And when he showed it to me, I saw nothing. Are you messing with me? That's not really funny, I told him. No, look, it's right next to me. It has such a silly look, he explained. But I never believed him. I had a strange thought telling me that only he could see the demon. But I just ignored it. A week later, I returned from work to not only find shattered vases, scratched up portraits, and a broken TV. I found your grandpa's dead body. Me and my sister just stared at each other and back at Grandma in disbelief. She continued, and then your grandpa became a spirit representing death ever since. Grandma started crying. I just never knew he would come back to me. We both hugged our grandma. Suddenly, I heard that same deep voice from outside our back door. Death is waiting for you, my love. The end. Whoa. That was cool. I like that one. Thank you, Anonymous. That was tight. I might read that on a podcast. I like that one. All right, let me check on the chat. I've been watching you since the Tikui episode. I've been hooked on your stories ever since. Thank you very much. Shumai Sunbun. That was so good. Stefan Hayden. Thanks for showing up. All right, y'all. This is the last one I have prepared, but if we have time for more after this, then I will search for another one. And just a friendly reminder that if you want to send in your own stories and emails, StoriesWithSapphire at gmail.com. Okay. Sorry. Around 6 years old, I was trying to fall asleep in the middle of the night, but just couldn't for some reason. So I decided to walk to my mom and dad's bedroom to sleep with them instead. But as soon as I got out of bed, I saw these floating colored circles and dots surrounding my bedroom. Some were blue, some were yellow, and just every bright, pretty color you could think of. Then they started to form into people, but still looked like dots and circles and not actual human beings. As I looked at them, I saw one that looked different. It was the color red, and it didn't look friendly. As I walked up to it, it looked at me. Immediately, it grabbed my legs and tried to drag me down under the floor. I screamed and kicked the figure in the face, and it let me go. I ran out of my room and into my parents' bedroom. I woke them up and explained what just happened to me. But after I explained everything, they didn't seem to believe me since I was just a little kid, and kids always imagine things all the time. But they still came with me and walked into my room. When we looked around, all the figures were gone. After that, my mom put me back in bed and wished me good night. As I went to sleep, though, I saw the colorful figures around me still. It looked like they were protecting me from the red figure. As I smiled at them, I fell asleep, peaceful. What? That one's from Reagan. Thank you, Reagan. The way that you're describing what you're seeing, I don't know if it's the same, but my sister's, my niece apparently like sees what she calls sparkles in her room. So I don't know if that's also what you're describing, how there's like floating colored dots. It might be a little different. But yeah, I'm wondering if that's the same. And the sparkles, I think, are I've heard so many different theories, so I have no idea what it is. It could be individual spirits. It could be fairies. Um, yeah. Uh, but that is kind of cool that you had these really protective ones with you at the end so that you could go to sleep. That's so nice of them. All right, let me mark this one as red. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you, all of you, for coming online, watching and joining me. If you have any stories you'd like me to read, and sorry, my brain just like turned off. StoriesWithSapphire at gmail.com every single Wednesday right here on Twitch. If you missed the live stream, I post them to YouTube the very next day, so you can always catch it there. All right, I will see all of you next week. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Bye.